Okay, this is the Ancient and Medieval History lecture for Tuesday, the 10th of May, 2022. And we just finished seeing Robin and Marian. Why'd she do it? She's an idiot. Yeah. Yeah. Think about it. Why'd she do it? Yes?
It was the last victor he gave a brief visit, and that way his legend ended off with a legendary battle.
Yeah? And that mattered more to him than to other people. Understand, the wound he took might have killed him. That would have been merciful. But it would have been a slow, painful death because it was an intestinal wound. Had he lived, he would have been crippled. Now, there are men in this world that can adapt to being crippled. That man was not one of them. That man was very much physical. He saw his life as that of a warrior. And because of that, he needed to struggle. In fact, he did everything he could to make sure that his life was at risk. He didn't have to leave the forest. He didn't have to go out and meet the sheriff. But the sheriff knew he'd come because he was a little bit in love with death. More to the point, he's getting old and he can't handle it. That's why he did some of the risky things. In fact, he's lucky that he was able to survive climbing the wall and fighting on the wall and jumping off the wall, just to mention that particular event alone, let alone all the other stuff. Very fortunate fellow, that guy. So he's crippled. She knows it. She's a healer. What's she going to do for the man she loves? Now, her I love you thing. For a Christian to say that they love anyone more than God, that's serious. It's actually not ideal. It's a problem. Because you're not supposed to love anyone more than God. After all, God gave you the people in this world that you love the most. But she says it. Because what did she do the last time he left? Did she accept it and move on? She sliced her own wrist. She tried to kill herself.
Why the wrist though? Like, that's not a fatal point.
Well, no, you'll bleed out if you cut properly. And that's the classic way to do it. So she wasn't a doctor at that point. This is the kind of love that's so intense and romantic, it's scary, dangerous. That's already the case. And she is seeing the man she loves literally go out of his way to court death. The sheriff didn't want to kill him when he first arrived. The sheriff ended up warning him several times. But Robin just pushed it because that's who Robin was. You don't have to agree with her choice. You really don't. I'm not sure I do, and I've seen this movie since it came out. But I hope that you'll consider trying to understand it. Understand her motive. She wasn't just a murderer. She wasn't just selfish. There was a little of that. Because she took the poison first. Remember that. She intended to die with him. She didn't have to do that. But she couldn't live without him. She made that choice. And so she gives him the poison. It takes away the pain. It sends him on his way quickly and without too much fuss. And he doesn't have to live a limited life like he would have otherwise. So, do you have any thoughts on that? Am I missing something? Am I not understanding something about that? By the way, Nick, you wouldn't be able to hurt her because you would have already been poisoned.
I would have jumped off the bed and I would have started crawling and then like hit her ankles until she fell.
But she was already poisoned.
She was already down.
Well,
That's okay.
It
He's
matters
just
more
too much of a man.
I know. It's just so much testosterone.
Oh, God.
You don't
Right when
have
I'm
to
dying,
kill
I'm
someone
just
who's
gonna
already poisoned. You just
Yes.
wait.
Yeah, but then there's the satisfaction of doing it, which I suppose
Revenge.
he has, yes.
You shit your
Revenge.
balls.
Because she's taking him out of the
Give
world
me the
because she
bow.
loves him and because he's going to be crippled. Any other thoughts
Give me the bow.
before I move into the other things about the movie? Okay. There is the peasant uprising. What happens to Robin's men? What happens?
They get chased in the forest and killed.
Yeah, they get chased and killed or captured. A lot of them are going to be captured, smacked around a while, and sent back to work in the fields. Why? Because that's what they're there for. They're there to work in the fields. So he being the new ruler, whoever that's going to be, has got to keep the area functioning economically. Did those peasants have any chance out in the open?
No,
Why not?
because they don't have proper armor or weapons, really.
Yeah. More than that, have you ever wondered, in real organized crime, particularly the mafia, the Italian mafia of the 20th century, their enforcers aren't necessarily big boxer wrestler dudes. They're short guys with bellies who are middle-aged. Guys who you see working in bowling alleys and grocery stores. Yet these guys enforce for the mob. Why? Can anyone raise their hand and tell me why a little 45-year-old Italian guy is going to be capable of intimidating or hurting anyone who he needs to?
Well, he has a gun, most likely.
Well, there's that, yeah.
He's always unsuspecting, too.
Well, there's a bit of that, too. He'll use surprise. He'll use the weapon if he needs to.
And he's an attitude.
What?
It's an attitude.
It's an attitude. It's more than that. It's an attitude backed up by experience. I've been into several fights. I've never had to kill anyone in a fight. And if you've been through that and you've had to kill people, you go through some experiences that nobody else can mimic. Nobody else can reproduce. And if you're comfortable with it, you can do it again. It actually gets easier as time goes on, so people say. So if you have a little 45-year-old Italian guy with a belly who's a stone-cold killer, all of the normal stuff that interferes with people functioning well in moments of danger don't apply to him. Normally your adrenaline floods your bloodstream and you want to run, you want to hide, you want to figure out a way out. It's fight or flight. You're thinking like a deer that's caught in the headlights. Meanwhile, he's killing you. Psst, slice, psst, strangle, psst, boom. However he does it, to him it's just a job. You're not going to hurt him any more than a deer is going to hurt a wolf. Deer's actually a pretty strong beast. If a deer fought, hard, and had the attitude of an aggressive warrior creature, the deer might win. He's got horns, he's got legs, but the wolf wins because the wolf is a stone-cold killer. That's what the wolf is designed to do. It is an attitude thing. So the warriors have the armor, yeah, they've got the weapons, sure, they've got the training, but more than that, they're used to inflicting pain and death. To them, it's nothing special. Yeah, you take it seriously because every time in battle you might die, but it's not a big deal the way it is for a person whose normal job is to till the fields, and suddenly life or death in a fight, what do you do now? Most people in that moment clench up. They don't keep thinking. They just start reacting. Yeah.
I was going to say that with the whole wolf versus deer thing, you were saying that the deer could possibly win. The problem with that is wolves tend to hunt in packs.
Well, that's two. I'm
So-
talking one-on-one.
Okay, one-on-one.
Wolfo Diro.
Oh, God.
Volpo, I forget what a deer is called in Spanish. I don't know. I don't forget. I never knew. In any event, ask La Senora Bright what a deer is called in Spanish. So I think wolf is something like vulpine from the Latin. I could be wrong. In any event, look, the other comparison is this: the corrida, bullfighting, which I believe still goes on in Spain and Mexico.
In Madrid.
El Matador wears the tight pants and the silly hat and the bright, shiny vest. Now, tell me there's nothing sexual there. Of course there is. The Matador is a man. The bull is a bull. Now, I worked on a dairy farm. I have no trouble imagining how dangerous bulls can be when they get an attitude, because I've been there. Okay, I've had to run for my life and dive over a fence. Why? Because angry bull. And that bull didn't even have horns. It was just big and strong and could crush me like a bug if I let it. So, in ancient Spain, up to the present, I don't think that the anti-animal cruelty people have yet stopped the corrida. I could be wrong, though. Maybe in Mexico they have, maybe in Spain. I don't know. I hope not, because it's an ancient tradition. Anyway, the bull, before the match, is upset by a bunch of cowboys' assistants. So they'll go up and, hey, little bull, how you doing, little bull? Got your nose, blah, blah, blah. And the bull's like, and then they open the gate, and the bull is out, and he's upset. Now, if you're one of the little cowboys' assistants and you're stupid enough to fall in with the bull, he'll stomp you like jelly. In fact, he'll stomp you into jelly. So the bull is out there in the arena, and he's already upset. And then you've got El Matador, as you say, with his cape and his hooks and his sword. And what the Matador does is he offers a target to the bull. And the bull, being angry and seeing red, bulls that recognize red, goes for it. And then the Matador does his dance. Ole! And as the bull goes by, the Matador hooks it with something that looks a bit like a tire iron, except it's sharp. This tire iron is a hook. You hook it into the back of the bull, the side of the bull, and what it does is it pierces the flesh, and it hurts like an SOB. And it bounces around, and it causes the bull to bleed. So this is going to make the bull even more angry. And a good match goes on for quite a while, with the bull charging the Matador, and the Matador slowly putting hooks into the bull, but keeping the bull's adrenaline levels up so it's a good contest. And then finally, if the Matador knows his stuff, when the bull is exhausted, before it gets boring, the Matador dispatches him with a sword stroke to the heart. Done. Now, do Matadors screw up? Oh, hell yes. And then they get crippled or injured or die. Hopefully they get minor injuries and move on. But this started out as a pre-Christian pagan blood right. For ancient people to sacrifice a bull, that's a lot of wealth. That's a huge deal. Bulls produce cows, produce milk, and produce meat. Bull is a big deal. So sacrificing a bull was never a small matter. But the fact that you've got one-on-one combat between bull and man means that it could be a blood right human sacrifice too. And all of that is part of the deal. The only way that a man has a chance against a bull is to use his brains. The peasants are living lives of misery and suffering, and they're pissed. They're upset all the time when they think about it. When something unjust happens, they feel, and they feel big feelings. But they have no experience with education. They have no experience learning to think. They have no experience disciplining their minds or even their bodies. You all have more self-control and self-possession than most peasants. Twice, 3 times your age. Why? Because you've been through an education system that forces you to improvise, adapt, overcome, that forces you to learn things. They don't have that. So they're like the bull. Even if you take away the knight and the warrior's weapons, armor, training, the peasant would still fail. They always fail. Peasant uprisings never succeed in European history. Not in the long run. In the short run, some peasants may take over an area, kill a few lords, burn a few mansions or castles down, but they always fail. And the reason they always fail is that they don't understand how to organize themselves, They don't understand how to plan. They're reacting. They're always reacting with passion. And even if they have a few leaders among them that try to organize things, that's a nasty combination. Sooner or later, the nature of the peasants will reassert themselves. And this isn't because they're less than human. They're as human as you or I. In fact, I would wager that most of our ancestors go back to the Middle Ages are European peasants, to the extent you come from European heritage. Yeah.
What would happen if Spartacus let them?
Well, then they'd succeed for a while. But even Spartacus failed. Look, what was the long-term strategy for Spartacus? Had he marched out of Italy and then dispersed his slaves, maybe they would have gotten home. But he stayed in Italy. He kept fighting. That's like playing Russian roulette. I got a revolver. I put a single round in it. I spin the thing. No one knows where the bullet is. And I go click and then pass it to you. And you go click. Sooner or later, that round is going to go through somebody's head.
Makes sense why it's Russian.
I actually don't know where the term comes from.
Well, that's
but it kind of does. In any event, what you're doing is you're tempting fate. In the long run, Spartacus's only hope was to get his slaves away from Rome far enough so that they could disperse and basically melt back into the countryside. The peasants in the long run, their only hope is to take and hold their land. And this is why they always fail. Because sooner or later, the forces of church and state come together and say, we're going to stamp this out. And they do. And they do it by misleading and manipulating the emotions of the peasants, and they do it by being more organized, and they do it by being unwilling to accept anything other than a complete peasant defeat. Because if peasants win here in, say, Bohemia, everywhere else is going to be threatened. It's the same reason why Crassus crucified Spartacus's troops after their surrender. Because we want to pass a message on to all of our slaves. You mess with us, you're going to die horribly tired, and you're going to die horribly painful, and you're just going to die horribly. You're not just going to die, you're going to die horribly. We're going to give you so much pain on the way out of this world that you'll never want to be like that person up there on the cross. Slaves and peasants are not the same exactly, but the stories are similar enough to work. So yeah, if they had had a Spartacus, they would have succeeded for a while. There are times when peasant uprisings in the Middle Ages succeeded for a while, but they've always, in the end, failed. And that's something you got to understand. That pathetic scene of the teenage boy winging rocks at the knights, and then looks back and he sees his dad dead. And what's he going to do? He could probably run, but where? He doesn't know the world. The world is a mystery to him. He's never traveled. So anyway, that's a depressing element. Now, understand also the movie. I love the movie. The movie is made by lefties, by socialists and communists, their fellow travelers, by people who believe that the biggest divide in society is between rich and poor. So this is definitely a movie to get people riled up at the damn rich people. There is a bit of that. Did you catch the inaccuracy in the fight? I show this movie because I think it's incredibly accurate. You see the filth, the grime, the clothing, the cities, everything about the way, how they ate, what they ate. But there's something in the final fight scene that is just so remarkably inaccurate. Can any of you guess what it might be? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the sheriff. Yep, and then yeah.
Wouldn't the sheriff's armor have been heavier?
It would have been. That's part way there. Yeah?
Was it the fact that the sword, didn't even look like it stabbed the sheriff at all? Obviously.
Well, that's choreography. What they did is they decided to do real fighting, professional wrestling, rather than anything with special effects. But yeah, there is that. Okay, yeah.
The sheriff got sliced through the chainmail.
Yeah, that happens, actually. It's not easy, but a sword can slice through chainmail, and Robin got sliced through the side. And Robin's wearing what's called studded leather armor. It's a leather jerk, and it's pretty thick, and it's got studs of metal on top. But, yeah, it's unlikely, but it's possible. There?
He's holding a sword and an axe.
That actually is a form of fighting style. It's a two-weapon fighting style. And it's something that only a nobleman would have the time and training to learn. So you got this 3 or 4 pound sword, which isn't that heavy at first, but trust me, it gets heavy pretty quick. And you've got an axe. And the idea is your enemy's probably not going to be able to handle both attacks. That actually was realistic, believe it or not. Yes?
Every time that Robin went down, couldn't the sheriff just kill him?
Yeah, but that would be dishonorable. And the sheriff has already had a chance to kill Robin. He wants Robin's defeat. He doesn't want Robin just dead. He wants to do it right, do it fair, do it the. Now, otherwise, he could have just had his crossbowman shoot Robin in the back when he was climbing the wall. Yeah.
That was my guess.
Okay. Yeah.
He wasn't wearing a helmet.
No, they were both wearing headgear. Here's the thing. You actually came the closest to it. The sheriff is wearing his chainmail over his naked chest. He's wearing his chainmail coif over his naked head. You never, ever do that. That's stupid. The chainmail will protect you from slashing attacks, but not against bludgeoning, not against the crushing blows. When the sheriff was hit in the shoulder, it wasn't so much that he got cut, it was that it numbed his arm, probably broke his shoulder. So it's basically a big iron club, or steel club, and now he doesn't have the use of his arm anymore. He's got to cut his axe off because he can't use his arm. Why? Because of the bludgeoning attack. The way you wear armor is you always have padding underneath. It's called a gambeson. It's basically like a male skirt or a jerkin or a dress, whatever. It's padded. Sometimes the padding is an inch thick, and it's the kind of padding you see in a mattress. And then you put the chainmail on top of that. You also have a padded helmet, on top of which you put the chainmail. Otherwise, it doesn't matter that the sword doesn't slash you. You're going to take every ounce of pressure when you get hit by a weapon. It's going to crush your bones. Now, I don't know why they did this. The movie is so accurate other than this. I mean, really, incredibly well done. But the sheriff and Robin, neither of them wear proper undergarments to their armor. And it's a shame, because to me, it's the only thing that takes away from it. Yeah.
Another thing, this is kind of a bit like, this is not about the same topic, but like, I find it kind of depressing, the sheer scale of the army. Like, the king is like, I'll give you what troops I can. It's like 50 troops, maybe 100. It's like they say earlier that they sent like 300,000 troops to the Crusades, and they're like, all of them died, basically.
Well, that's because it was like a pope was calling.
Yeah.
This is just a country.
The 300,000, absolutely right, comes from all of Western Europe.
Yeah.
The armies in those days were really small. Really small. Getting what they said was Sir Randolph wanted 200, he got just about 100. And they were a mixture of foot soldiers and knights, or foot and horse soldiers. So let's say there are 30 horse soldiers, 60 foot soldiers, and the rest are support troops. That's still a lot of people. To take over a local militia, that's enough.
Yeah, I know, but it just seems like kind of like depressing. Like,
well, it's just the populations were smaller back then, and everything was local. Okay. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But let's take a look at your thing, because we'll go through the answers, and you should be able to turn your work in today if you're fast writing. We'll start at the last question and work our way back. And I'm going to start with Miss Aughton and work my way around counterclockwise. So, what did Marian do with Robin after the battle, and why? She gives him poison. She gives herself poison because she doesn't think he can handle being crippled. That'll do. 29. Describe the fate of Robin's forces, Ariana.
So either die or be captured.
Right. Death or capture. Ms. Strom, describe the weapons, gear, and fighting styles used by the sheriff and Robin in their duel.
So Robin had like the leather armor and just a sword, and the sheriff had the axe and the sword, and then
Yeah, and it was hand-to-hand combat. Excellent. Abby, what deal was struck between Robin and the sheriff? Who kept it or broke it?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure if Robin won, then like his men would leave, and then if the sheriff did, like his men would leave, and then the sheriff broke the deal.
Well, the sheriff actually probably wouldn't have, but it was the knight Sir Ranulph, the oaf, who never liked obeying the sheriff anyway. He is the one who broke the deal, and he died for it. By the way, that weapon that the oaf was using is called a flail. It's a spiked ball on a chain. Sometimes there are more than one ball, and it's designed to hit people in armor. It's not really designed against people without armor. It'll hurt you, but you got to really know what you're doing, like nunchucks. But if you know what you're doing and you're hitting somebody with armor, each time that ball hits you, you're crushing bones quickly.
So if it was supposed to kind of counter armor, why do you bring it against armor?
Because that was his favorite weapon, I guess. I don't know. It looked cool. It's one of the only movies that has somebody using a weapon like that. Alex, why exactly did Robin choose to attack the sheriff's army outside Sherwood?
Because it was open field, and sheriffs didn't really expect that they would try to do the open field anymore.
Logically, you're right in that nobody expected it except the sheriff. Here's why. Robin wasn't trying to live. Robin was trying to fight a glorious battle. Even Robin himself understood that he was having trouble with the age thing. And so he went out there to fight the sheriff single combat to die gloriously. He never would have understood that, but that's why he did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Cruz, describe the forces of Robin's soldiers.
Kind of a ragtag group of soldiers with like just leather armor.
Yeah,
and
basically.
old men.
Civilians, men and boys, old men. Hanson, what about the sheriff's and Ranulph's forces?
Well, they were heavily armored, so like metal, steel armor, chainmail, and they had whatever their shirts,
Yeah.
top beads,
Yeah.
and long swords and bows and horses.
Yep, a variety of troops. Garrett, by the way, this tie was found in some weird thrift store by Mr. Johnson, and it reminded him of the Bronx, the miserable, miserable Bronx.
Oh.
So he passed this thrift store item on to me, and it actually works. It's a cool tie, so thank you.
Yo,
Now,
this guy.
I normally don't accept gifts from students, but I had to accept this one. So, let's see. What justification did the sheriff use when he took command of Ranulph's army?
The sheriff said that they were in his county.
Right. My land, my county, you do what I say. And, oh God, Ranulph hated that. What reason did Sir Ranulph finally use to persuade King John?
He said that Robin was becoming a legend and trying to overthrow him.
That's it. Because John hated and admired his brother, Richard. And it was have you ever tried to fight a legend? Just my brother. And that was the turning point. John was going to give him troops after that because fighting a legend. Chloe, let's see. What reason, 21. What ruler did the king have the most problems with? The Pope, that's right. 20. Describe King John's camp by the sea.
It's like a bunch of cloth tents near a cliffside.
Yep, and the king had the biggest tent. And what reason did Sir... why do I keep doing that? 20. Describe... 19. How had Marian reacted to Robin's earlier departure for the Crusades?
She thought she would die and she cut herself.
Yeah, she attempted suicide. Describe Hunter. Describe Robin's chief memories of the Crusades.
Biggest memory was the battle where he helped to take a city.
Yeah, and the civilians were taken out and gutted so that they would be searched. Cool. Okay, if you got yours done, put it in the shelf. If not, turn it in tomorrow. Have a good day.
All right, you're simple. No, never mind.
Thank you. Come again.